Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show with me and Graham here on AFTV. A 2-2 draw for Arsenal at Anfield. And the big question has been, a question that even Aaron Ramsdale himself couldn't answer in the post-match, was that a point gain? Was that 2 points drop, Graham? It's a very difficult one to measure. We're going to try and understand this from a tactical perspective, but obviously in terms of the impact of the greater season, that's not really a tactical question, but I've got to ask and get your thoughts on it as well, and welcome you to the show.
Thank you, James. I think we have to look upon it in the end, James, as a point gained. I think we have to look at a point gain for the simple reason we might think it's 2 points lost because we were 2 ahead after 39 minutes, having played some outstanding football in that first half. But in the end, second half, I thought we sat too deep. We invited Liverpool back onto us, and I think they dominated the whole of the second half. And in the end, I think could have won the game. So in the end, I think it was a point gained. Despite that, I think I really proud Arsenal supporter this morning. Proud of the club for what they did over the weekend at Anfield. Mikel Arteta, Martin Odegaard laying those wreaths outside the stadium the day before the game. Proud of the supporters who actually impeccably
cheered on the team.
Impeccably sort of like in that minute silence.
Of course,
the way that they sort of like were quiet for that minute silence, and then really proud of the team because I think our record at Anfield is 10 straight losses in the league. Something like, sorry, it's not 10 straight losses, James. It's 7 losses and 3 draws. We haven't won for 10 games. But in the last 6 games, I think the score is 22-4 to Liverpool. So it shows how far we've come under Mikel Arteta, and credit to Arteta and the team yesterday for going to a hostile place. We always knew it was going to be difficult in getting a 2-2 result, which, some will say gives advantage back to Manchester City. I've long believed that we can't lose both games to Man City and win this Premier League, James. So I think that we have to go there and avoid defeat. But overall, I think, looking at it overall, I thought it was a point gained.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that. And by the way, you are right to mention Carragher tweeted about the minute silence and the fact that everyone in the ground, including the Arsenal fans, were fantastic. And AGT on the COP TV, who go check out his work and his fan cams after the game as well, had a lot of respect for the class Arsenal showed in the day before, as you mentioned, and during the match as well, because we know that certain chants can be sung sometimes about Liverpool fans, and it was a great spirit around the game, and I thought it was played brilliantly on the pitch from two teams that, one struggling for form, but we know what they've achieved over the years, one in great form, but are still do they say young pretenders, the young team that are still trying to do over the next 5 years what this team have done over the last 5 years. And I thought we made for a great game in which people were, I think, discrediting Arsenal a little bit, saying, well, that first half hour they were brilliant. Disagree. I think the first half they were brilliant. I know Liverpool still had a few chances, but I really think for most of that first half, Arsenal were really, really good. Maybe the last 5 minutes you edge it to Liverpool. But then the second half was all Liverpool. They completely and utterly controlled the game. I think the match stats are fascinating because there's a lot to be proud of in the Arsenal performance. But when you look at the raw numbers, it suggests that Liverpool were unfortunate not to come away with a win. I'm sure some Liverpool fans will feel that way. 21 shots on our goal, 6 on target. We had 5 on target with 9 shots. Only 41% of the ball, though we did start very confidently on the ball. 281 passes there, 434. And as you mentioned off camera, you've seen other XGs going around, but you've gone with the source that we always use in this show, so we're being consistent with 3.96 XG, which is still enormous, to a 1.41 XG for Arsenal. And I think that also just shows you how good some of those chances were for Liverpool, especially towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I think some sources that I saw had Liverpool over 4.
Yeah.
And I think Aaron Ramsdale's performance, we're going to talk about how good he was, had to be brilliant, the amount of XG of shots that he faced in the game. So, look, very rarely we stand here, me and you, and look at match stats heavily weighted against Arsenal. We're going to see this in attacking stats and in defensive stats today. And if you look at the attacking stats, James, you'll see it here, massively in favour of Liverpool. Look at their opposition box touches, it's double R's, zone 14, 3 times R's, high turnovers, and that second half in particularly, they really excelled in that number. And look at the field tilt. I can't remember a field tilt where Arsenal have been so heavily outdone in field tilt. Liverpool had nearly 2/3 of the field tilt.
Completely agree. And that is just, it's one of those where I say that you give the first half to Arsenal, you give the second half to Liverpool, but the first half Arsenal had was very good, but Liverpool's second half was, I mean, as good as I've seen them all season, if I'm honest. And I think that's where the stats are slightly outweighed, if that makes sense. Their second half just really pulled the numbers in their favour.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've got some different defensive stats
I've gone for
here.
some different stats this week, just to show a few different perspectives on it. Tackle win percentage, because I think in this game we were very good. We won a lot of our tackles, 52% to their 55%. Aerial duels, they sort of had most of the aerial duel wins. We had to clear our lines more than there. I think the passes per defensive action, look how good Liverpool were in the 90 minutes. 6.4 is an absolutely outstanding passes per defensive action number. I think this was a game of two halves. I think first half, when the game was about two teams trying to play football, and that's what surprised me about Liverpool in this game, James. I think that first 35, 40 minutes, they tried to take us on in a game of football. And as we're going to talk about when we show our pressing, before we get up to that, mate, we sort of like build up in a 3-2-5. We know we like to invert into that 3-2-5 shape. Liverpool, for me, almost like matched us in the first half in formation. And it was a deliberate tweak, I thought, in the game where Trent Alexander-Arnold was playing more inverted. So they were like three at the back with two, Fabinho next to Alexander-Arnold, in like a 3-2-5 or 3-2-2-3 or whatever you want to say, whereas we play our 3-2-5. And when it was a game of football in that first 40 minutes where Liverpool were trying to build up like we were trying to build up, I thought we outplayed them. And when it was a game of football, Liverpool like the fire, don't they? They like the energy from the crowd. They liked an intense atmosphere, and their players sort of they like their fullbacks up high, and they like the midfield close to the attack, getting Salah, Jota, and Gakpo close to the goal. But I thought in that first half there was they played it differently. They were sort of like when it was trying to progress the ball forward from deep, which they don't normally play like that. They seem to want to play like that at the start of the game, and we outplayed them in that first 40 minutes. It's only when they got the goal back before half time, and then second half it became the game that they wanted it to be, because we sat so deep. Our centre halves, who were very high in the first half, in that 3-2-5, were sitting deep. But we sat in two blocks of four for the whole of the second half. We're going to talk about today, maybe he should have changed it, things he could have done differently, I know. Not a criticism of Mikel, who's been brilliant this season, but could he have done things slightly differently? But overall, I thought we lost it, or didn't win it, because second half we sat deep and invited pressure, and it became the game they wanted it to be.
Yeah, and I think he makes some great points about that first half. You know, I listened to Klopp's pre-match quotes, and he said something along the lines of, we need to be aggressive off the ball, we need to be composed on the ball. And I thought, here's Liverpool, you know, he's basically trying to rile everyone up and say, you know, let's bring the fire. And you're right, actually, it's like he tried to tactically outthink Arteta, which Klopp isn't really seen as a tactician, and that's probably a little unfair on him, but it's also not certainly where you would think the strengths of his Liverpool teams have been, in the way they are tactically smart. They can be, but it's more about the energy. It's more the overwhelming nature they can have. I thought starting Curtis Jones an interesting one. I know Thiago's had his injuries, could have gone for Elliott, but I think the fact that they had that energy in midfield, I thought might cause us problems, but it didn't really come to the second half. Arsenal pressed Liverpool and had to adjust in a different way. Talk us through it, because you wanted to show us what the press would normally look like first.
Well, no, I thought this is the way we pressed at the start, if you run it through.
Right, yeah.
We like to press man to man.
Yeah.
And so you're now putting the players up high into their positions. This will be a man-to-man press, how Arsenal will press if Liverpool were in their normal 4-3-3 shape. And you see Saka would be on Robinson, Jesus would be between two centre-halves, and Martinelli would push on to Trent Alexander. Then you go man-to-man in midfield, and then you've got like Holding Gabriel taking care of Gakpo, with White taking care of Jota, and Zinchenko taking care of Salah. So that's how it started, the game started. But Liverpool immediately changed in the game, which was picked up on Sky Sports. I don't take no credit for that. I did hear him say that, and then I started looking at it. There was a clear movement by Liverpool to move Trent Alexander-Arnold infield, which you're now going to show, and that Arsenal immediately adjusted to this straight away. I think the key, what they were looking for, they were looking to drag Martinelli in field. So if Trent came in here in a 3-2 build-up, and that would create space. Konate would come out now onto the right-hand side, Robinson and Van Dijk, the other two defenders, in the three. And I think the tactic then was to drag Martinelli inside. Konate would look to play the ball down the line to Salah. And that was, I think, the space they were trying to create in build-up. And also probably try and get Trent on the ball in like the pivot, although that's not his strength, of course. But Arsenal immediately adjusted to that in three ways. I thought what we saw was Martinelli stayed out wide where they wanted him to come infield. He stayed out wide, now marking Kanate. And I think Xhaka then pushed from Henderson onto Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah.
And of course, we're going to talk about that flare-up between the two in the first half, which some say changed the way the game was going. Zinchenko now moved from Salah up against Henderson, and Gabriel was now pushed across to mark Salah. So I think Arsenal adjusted to what Liverpool did when Trent went into midfield in that 3-2-5 shape. And I think Gabriel...
I thought it was a great battle.
It was a great battle. And I think Gabriel was absolutely immense in this game. He won his interceptions, his blocks, his tackles. He stopped Salah. Salah, for me, is, if you move him forward there, James, he's more dangerous here, moving into here when he's running into this sort of space. And this is what it became second half. But when he's got to come deep, I think Arsenal knew that if he's playing here and Gabriel gets tight to him, he's not so good receiving the ball, he's back to goal and turning. I think that's he's better with the ball in front of him. So I thought Gabriel took...
Well, he can be brilliant. He can be, but Gabriel's a good match for him.
Yeah, he is. And he won all their duels, didn't he? I noticed every time the ball went to Salah, Gabriel was straight in with a tackle or a block, getting the ball off him. So that movement to try and get Kanate a ball up to Salah wasn't really working for them. Zinchenko pushed on to Henderson. Henderson wasn't really getting up to support the attack.
And sometimes tried to come wide to fill that space. So that's Salah.
And I think second half it changed when Henderson got up high and he started moving even beyond Salah. And then of course Xhaka moved on to Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold in a pivot, some could say, he's a great crosser of a ball. Get him up here, and as we saw, he nutmegged Zinchenko for the equaliser when he put the cross in. But he's not so good in here. He's not somebody who can play in a pivot like Partey can, build the play. But he moved in here, and I thought that was... Arsenal got control. When it was a football game, James, when it was a football game, two teams playing in a 3-2-5 shape, I thought we outplayed them, and we scored two great goals. And this is the way I think we man-marked them. It was a man-marking system that adjusted to the way Liverpool tried to adjust in the game.
I think there's positives and negatives for a man-marking system. That's one of the things we really want to highlight here, because let's start with the positives. The Jesus goal. Now, I've recreated it here. You've got Xhaka, bless him, just about in screen. Now, what I thought was really interesting about this is Trent was clearly adapting to this. I'm inside when we don't have the ball. So when we have the ball, but I have to retreat to my right back position. But they're also trying to press as well, Liverpool. I think they had a little bit of an identity crisis in that first 40 minutes, Liverpool, in terms of, well, what are we trying to do a little bit here? And Arsenal exploited that really well, because I said in the preview, play your football, Arsenal. Play out the press, because Liverpool haven't pressed this season as well as they have done in previous years, and the numbers showed it. But with Xhaka here, when he plays this ball into Martinelli, it causes havoc across the back line, because when you look at it here, they have... what do they call it, numerical advantage or whatever? I mean, Odegaard's somewhere here, but he doesn't really do anything too much in this attack. Really got Martinelli running, you've got your back four, Jesus and Van Dijk's got an eye on him, and Robertson, but Robertson is thrown off by the fact that Saka is behind him. Saka doesn't really play much of a part in the goal, but the fact that he's there, causes a bit of trouble. But it's the position of Trent Alexander-Arnold, and the fact that Arsenal wanted to exploit this with Martinelli being so high and wide, because he's slightly ahead of him, and he's definitely wider, and that puts a lot of pressure on Kanate. So when this ball is played over the top here, it's Kanate, as you can see, who has to come across. Oh, I've actually touched that, but there you go. And then by that point, Trent's trying to get back, but you've got two players to try and stop one. It's very similar actually to the goal we scored at the Emirates, when sort of, I think it was Gomez, or was it Gomez or Trent? I can't remember, gets pulled across by Martinelli.
No, it's Trent. You're talking about the opening goal?
No, the goal at the Emirates when we went 2-1 up before half time. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah,
when he cut inside, and I think Trent runs past, and maybe Henderson as well is not great in that. But this time, obviously, goes for high ball. But what you've got here is the ball has to be perfect from Martinelli, because Van Dijk's better in the air than Jesus. Fantastic in the air, great hold-up play, showed it all day. Van Dijk's better in the air. So the ball has to be perfect, and he hits that spot where Alisson can't really come and claim it. Van Dijk is too far behind him, but Robertson can't really attack it either, because he's got an eye on Saka behind him, and Martinelli gets it spot on. I feel sorry for Martinelli and that pass at the end of the game that people are saying he should have got right, and he should have, because I thought he was sublime. And we're going to talk about what he did really well in a little bit. Yeah. But it was really good from Arsenal to take advantage of that situation.
Yeah, I thought the ball from Granit Xhaka for Martinelli, if you play it back, was absolutely sublime, James. And I think he gets a lot
chip pass here.
Yeah, chip pass over the top. Now Trent got a lot of stick if you stop it there. Trent was inverted, and a bit like we're going to show with the Ben White thing on the goal that we concede. Trent is now inverted. He has to get across. He took a lot of criticism from the media on Sky Sports and other punditry that I saw, but he was in here, and to get out there, he was. When you're playing in here, it's not always easy to get out wide. People are saying all the goals are coming down his side, but he was playing inverted in this game. So when the ball goes out, it's a brilliant build-up by Arsenal, exposing that space on the left-hand side, drawing Konate across. And then Martinelli, I think, is a brilliant cross, but I question the defending, to be honest. I look at it sometimes from a defensive point of view.
Poor from a
I think
defensive point of
Van
view.
Dijk doesn't get it right when the ball comes across. It's a brilliant cross and a brilliant header. But I question, they had a 2v1 there. Could they have done better? I think Van Dijk doesn't get across and doesn't get his position right, and enables Gabriel Jesus. It's a brilliant header, but right on his head, puts it away superbly. So, great ball from Xhaka, great cross from Martinelli. I think Liverpool could have defended it better. That's my view on it.
So this is for me where we benefit from the shape. We're going to talk about the Xhaka incident in a little bit, but I actually want to talk about the first Liverpool goal first, and we've recreated that. Let's find it here, because it just feeds into that whole discussion around shape. Now, again, talked about where we benefited from the shape. This is where I think we don't. And what I've got here is Robertson wins the header. And you said to me as we were recreating this, you said, watch White, because you're right, it gets completely pulled out of position. Now, one thing's really interesting about this is Arsenal have gotten into a shape, but because they're man marking and because they're following their particular runners all over the place, when one thing goes wrong, the whole thing becomes a little bit of a free-for-all. You're trusting the players and their instinct to be able to deal with the situation. It's not about structure and coaching. It's about, hey, you lot on the pitch, can you get us through this moment? And Robertson wins the header to Jota, but when he spins around White and finds Gakpo, that's when the whole thing starts to come apart. Saka's watching Robertson. Really, Jones was marked by Partey, but Jones is quite wide, so Partey doesn't want to go into that space. Therefore, Holding doesn't really come on to Gakpo because he knows that Partey's kind of in front, and then White follows Jota, and there you go. Where's Zinchenko in that inverted role? Because clearly we'd had the possession of the ball, I think,
ends up back
a little
at
bit
centre-back,
before.
doesn't he?
He does at the end of all this.
Yeah.
So the ball comes into Jota, he spins White. I think that's a little too easy from White and Partey to let him get that ball through, but he does. It's good from them. They've got very good players. They're going to do good things. At this point, Jones has pulled wide, and Holding's having to keep an eye on that. Zinchenko slotting into centre-back, and Xhaka, who was watching Henderson, is thinking, that's a back three. I want to make it a four.
Yeah.
So he starts, sprinting back. Jones gets the ball, running forward, and then at this bit here, as he's coming in and Jota's about to make the overlap, it's an overlap, not an underlap, your back five is made up of Holding at right back, Partey, Xhaka's about to try, or Xhaka and White are trying to sort of watch Henderson while Gakpo's on the edge. Zinchenko is the most central of the defenders, and Gabriel's still got an outsider. Gabriel's actually the only one who's doing his job from at the start of the move. And then he cuts inside Jones, rolls it back, and Henderson's just got a little bit too much space. Well, far too much space in the area. But it's a product of the man marking getting pulled apart.
Yeah, of course. And I think you recreated that goal brilliantly. I think the 2 points I make on that, they create the 2v1 by the fact that Ben White is out of position. Again, because he's inverted. That's what he offers you going forward. You saw in our first goal with the movement that he from Saka off Robertson, but it was Ben White's pass that sort of like got Saka moving. But here he's caught out of position. They create the 2v1. They get the cross across. Everybody's backpedaling, as you quite rightly say. People are trying to. The best way of dealing with teams that man mark, whether it be Arsenal or the opponents, is to move people around, get them out of their shape, and move them away from their markers. And that's what they did with this goal, James, principally by moving Ben White, creating the 2v1 overload. As the ball comes across, I think they get a little bit lucky because as he puts it across, Henderson, I think, is shooting for goal, and it deflects off his foot over to the back stick. Gabriel, who can't react quick enough, but it falls nicely for Salah, and they put it back to 2-1.
Let me ask about that Xhaka incident. It happened a minute and 30 seconds or something before. My take very quickly is you can detach one thing from the other. Do I think this goal happens? This is why I wanted to recreate it, to almost absolve Xhaka of a little bit of the blame from the goal. I think it's a tactical thing that goes wrong here. However, do I also think Xhaka was wise to engage? Because everyone's saying that Xhaka didn't do a lot. He led with the arm a little bit into a tackle or attempted tackle that he was never going to win in a pointless area of the pitch. And he riled up Trent a little bit. And then Trent's aggression went up. Gary Neville said it on commentary. And then the crowd got a bit louder. And a lot of people who were there sort of said a similar thing. I just think it wasn't wise. Not the reason we didn't win the game. I thought Xhaka was actually very good for a lot of the game. But he didn't need to do it.
I obviously wasn't in the stadium. I watched it on the television like yourself. I thought the Liverpool fans, from what I could hear through the television airways, were incredibly quiet for that first 35 minutes. And it's almost like Trent talked about in his interview afterwards, we needed something to sort of like get the fire going. And that did get the fire going for the fans. So I think Granit has been absolutely brilliant this season. I'm not going to sort of like blame at him. I think where that incident developed, where probably he got it wrong, was I thought he was fouled out on the left touchline. He looked at the referee. That was a foul. He didn't get it. He got up quickly, and I think he momentarily lost composure when he went into the challenge with Trent Alexander-Arnold that led to the flare-up. And I think that came from his disappointment not getting the free kick. You could argue he's a senior player, shouldn't react like that. I think a fair point has been made on social media that it's almost like you've got to get the level right between the right aggression on the pitch, but not also going over the top, if you understand what I'm saying.
So can I answer that? Because some people are saying, yeah, but we want our players to show passion, and then we get annoyed when we do that. Hold on. There's a very big difference between showing passion in a tackle, showing aggression off the ball, and leading with an arm into a player when you weren't going to win the ball, you were nowhere near it, and you're 2-0 up and you're comfortable. You know, everyone wants passion, aggression, but we had done that bit. We were 2-0 up.
Yeah.
We were in complete control. We'd shown the passion. We'd shown the tactical awareness. We'd shown real composure on the ball. We did everything we needed to do. By that point, it's almost kill the passion, kill everything off. There's different game states as things happen. And at that point, Arsenal had control. Again, I'm not blaming Xhaka for the goal. I just didn't think it was a smart moment. I understand why people are linking the two a little bit. I think that's a bit harsh. But I also don't think you need to do it.
It definitely rolled the crowd up and definitely got Liverpool going, no doubt about it. And then within a minute and a half, they'd scored. But the one thing I will say is that they were always going to have moments in this game.
100%.
And I don't think they would have been quiet for the whole game. I think more or less I blame the way we adapted the second half more to the fact we didn't win the game more than the Granit Xhaka incident.
So let's talk about that second half. And we're going to talk about the subs in a sec. But first, what before the subs, what happened in that second half? Why? Because we can't put it on Xhaka that, 15 minutes of half time we couldn't get ourselves together. What was that about? Because I gave Arsenal and the players credit on an individual level.
Yeah.
I thought they all stepped up on an individual. This is chaos. This is crazy. I'm just going to try to do what I can. Tactically, structurally, complete mess the second half. But I thought the players on an individual level all fought very hard, I thought.
We had control in the first half. I thought the way we were playing our football. I think when they got that goal, that almost like changed the narrative. I think it gave them just the lift they wanted. And it almost like, as we went in at half time, I thought it like, it felt to me, whether it did or not, I don't know, but it felt to me as like we decided at 2-1, second half, we were going to hold what we had. And I think we stopped doing the things we did well in the first half. I talked about we had the 3, the 2 and the 5. We had our centre-backs high around the halfway line. We had White inverted, Zinchenko inverted into midfield, playing nice football through the thirds. We were getting our wide players into good positions. Martinelli was causing them havoc on the left-hand side, scored his 7th goal in eight games at the start of the match. We were doing everything so well in the first half up until they scored. And then second half, for some reason, whether it's because of game stake, whether it's because of pressure, whatever it was, we decided to sit on a 2-1 and play really deep. So we're holding... and Gabriel were high in the first half. Now they very rarely got forward out of our penalty box. Now, the moment that you do that and you start defending deep, that's everything that Liverpool want to try and win the game or get back into the game. Suddenly, second half, here we are. We've got White, Holding, Gabriel and Zinchenko back in a 4. We've got like Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard and even Saka coming back making 4. And Odegaard off Jesus. So it was almost like a 4-4-1-1 or a 4-4-2, whatever you want to say. We defended with 2 lines of 4 second half. And that encouraged Liverpool on. I know it's Henderson.
Because off the ball is a bit more like this, isn't it?
So you can start moving the Liverpool players forward if you want. Salah, start moving Salah up now. He's starting moving forward now, James. You've got Jota going up high. You've got Gakpo starting to create problems.
It's not letting me, sorry.
No, okay. But they got their, as a result of us defending in 2 lines of 4 and a 2, it encouraged them on. They got their fullbacks who were not getting high in the first half. We noticed how Alexander-Arnold, as we said, was more inverted in the first half. Second half, he was more coming up on the outside, on the right-hand side a lot. Robertson, who only had 6 touches in our half in the first half, had 27 in the second, where he was getting up high, causing havoc on the left-hand side. We sat in a 4-4-2, whatever you want to say. Liverpool then got their attacking players up high, the midfield players up to support their attacking players, started getting their fullbacks up high, and then they were the team, if anything, attacking with a sort of like a 5 up top against our, with their midfield support and their attack.
And Gary Neville made a really good point of commentary that in the first half, the 2 big chances Liverpool had, Arsenal players, Ramsdale and Gabriel, went down to maybe kill momentum, to give Arteta a little bit of time to reorganise, and they did really well in that first half, not to give Liverpool wave after wave of attack, whereas in the second half, it did feel like it was frantic, it did feel like it was relentless. We did make substitutions, and I'm going to ask you about the penalty in a sec, but let's talk tactical for a second here. These are the first changes that are made. Odegaard and Jesus come off, Arsenal go more to a 5-4-1, and Kivior comes on. We were both saying maybe Jorginho was an idea. Tierney perhaps should have come on earlier.
Look, I think the point I'm going to make straight away is Zinchenko, when he's playing in those areas of the pitch, is brilliant. He's not such a good defender in a back four if you're going to have him defending the whole of the second half. So maybe in hindsight, it's going to be a hindsight call, although I did say it yesterday, Tierney could have come on maybe earlier, Kieran Tierney, who would have been defensively better. I think Tomiyasu would have been ideal in this game had he been fit to come on, because he could have done to Salah what he did at the Emirates in sort of because he's left footed and right footed. If Salah wants to come inside, Tomiyasu can use his right foot. So, but Tierney I think would have been better than Zinchenko. I think we lost composure in the way we were playing out. We were struggling for an out ball, but struggling to control the game, struggling with composure playing out. I think possibly there was an argument for, as I said to you, bringing in Jorginho to play, and we shifted more to even a double pivot, taking off maybe Odegaard. I know you said you'd like Saka to come off, but I would have maybe taken off Odegaard, who wasn't having one of his better games, kept Saka and Martinelli up high for the break, and then try and have more control in the midfield, because I thought they were winning it in midfield, and then they were putting pressure on our back line we couldn't play out. And I think we sat far too deep, invited them on. And I always felt, although Ramsdale was brilliant, and particularly at the end, even when it got back to 2-2 with 2 big saves in the last couple of minutes, I always felt the way we were defending, there was going to be a late twist in this game, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about the penalty very, very quickly. Well, I just bring up Ramsdale's numbers because I do want to give him credit, and I think we want to end on the positives with the players. Very quickly, did you think it was a penalty? I
thought so.
Yeah.
I know you, when we discussed it today, you've got your own view on that. I just thought it was, I thought it was a pen. Some would say soft, but I thought it was a pen. I don't know if your view on it.
So here's how I describe it. Yes, it probably is a pen, because I think that's the precedent football has set. I think the rules should be reviewed. I don't think that should be a pen. I almost don't even think that should be necessarily a foul in the middle of the pitch. We know Xhaka likes to win a lot of those where he gets his body in the way.
Yeah.
I sometimes think, especially for a penalty that 9 times out of 10 leads into a goal, I'm not saying that you should have to do more to concede a penalty than a free kick. But when you're looking at the rules and you're talking about a contact sport here, Rob Holding, for me, he's just running. He's just running towards the ball. I don't think he's run into Jota's path. I think Jota's gone, let me put my body in the way, and when I get contact, I'll go down. Now, what looks bad is it looks like a right Rob Holding knee into the back of Jota's. But that is just, he's just moved towards the ball, and Jota's gone and waiting for contact. I think there has to be almost, not always, but like an attempt at a tackle or something. And I know that can't be said for anything. There's things like shirt pulls, there are things that you can barge into the back of a player when you're trying to go to the ball. But when I look at that, it feels incredibly soft for me, incredibly soft. And I get why it's given. I don't think it was exactly a howler of a decision, but I think football should move towards that kind of thing not being a penalty. But maybe that's my bias in the moment. Should we praise Aaron Ramsdale? 40 touches on the day, 8 long balls completed, 4 saves and 4 close range saves, and 6 shots faced. Man of the match for me.
I think that the XG, he should have conceded more goals. I haven't got the number in my head at the moment, but I know he The XG of what he should have conceded was far higher than what he actually conceded in that game. I thought he was immense in this game. The save from the Salah deflection, an absolute flying save, and then to claw that one out at the end to get us the point was absolutely world class. He was falling backwards when Konate sort of was forcing it towards the line. That was absolutely superb. I thought he made another save one-on-one with Nunes. He made some big saves in this game. I can remember when he came to the club, a lot of fans were underwhelmed. I had that conversation with even Robbie, and Robbie would admit, he wasn't so sure about Ramsdale. He'd been in two relegated teams, Bournemouth and Sheffield United, I believe. But since he come to the club, what Arteta saw in him, I think you've seen quite quickly in the way he's played his game, the way he commands his box, the way he's kicking, his reflexes. I think there's an argument now he's probably England's best goalkeeper in the league at the moment, over Jordan Pickford, and that was in big games he's been immense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought he was amazing. I thought he was absolutely amazing. He's been doing that the whole second half of the season. I think he's been absolutely superb. Unfortunately, I have to fly through these, but Gabriel, 5 duels, won 7 clearances, 3 blocks and 3 interceptions, not dribbled past once. I thought the battle with Salah was fantastic. And I thought he was absolutely immense. Didn't deserve to be...
Him and Ramsdale didn't deserve to be in a team that drew yesterday. They deserved to be in a winning team yesterday. They were absolutely superb.
Yeah, I agree. And Martinelli, yes, could have done better that late pass. Think how exhausted he was. And he had to drop back and help, but always be an outlet on the counter. I thought a big issue in that second half for Arsenal was not taking advantage of those counter-attacks at times, but I thought he was absolutely sublime, always is against Liverpool. 3 key passes, a goal and an assist, 51 touches and 3 tackles as well, did his defensive work. Well played, Gabriel Martinelli as well. And look, I still think that a point is okay. I really think it's okay. It's not, it doesn't give us the complete control that we had perhaps before, where maybe we could have afforded to lose at the Etihad had we won at Anfield. But I just don't think with Liverpool away, West Ham away, who I still think is a tough game, Man City away, Newcastle away, I don't think we were going to get 12 out of 12.
No.
So I think we had to accept that somewhere along the line we needed a favour, but we had to make sure that we came out of this with a degree of pride, and that we made a statement. I think rival fans will troll us for the 2-0 up and all that. But I think teams will look at that, fans will look at that and gone, oh, Arsenal are a serious team, because for a lot of that game they were brilliant.
Yeah, as I say, our record at Anfield isn't great. As I said at the start of the show, we haven't won there for 10 league games, and we've lost 7 of those. We've conceded 22 goals in the last 6. So to go there and play our football just shows how far we've come under Mikel Arteta. I think the only thing he got wrong yesterday, as I say, was probably in the substitutions. I think I would have brought on Tierney for Zinchenko. I would have probably brought on Jorginho and flipped to a 4-2-3-1, and possibly replaced Jesus with Trossard. That's what I would have done. Just 2 quick stats on Gabriel Martinelli. He's now scored 14 goals this season. That's more than any Brazilian in the top 5 leagues, European leagues. And my second stat has gone from my head. He scored, and it's come back to me. He scored most of his goals, and this is impressive. Most of his goals have been scored against Liverpool, yesterday's opponent, which is, I think, absolutely fantastic.
Brilliant.
Which leads us into the
roundup stats. Go for it.
Stats.
Take it away. Everyone really enjoyed last week's. Rightly so.
I'm not going to be able to match last week's, James, but
no worries.
Arsenal, despite dropping 2 points, still lead Man City by 6 points, who have a game in hand. Arsenal are currently 16 points better off than they were from the equivalent games last season. Arsenal have now not won any of their last 10 Premier League visits to Anfield, as I said, drawn 3, lost 7. They also ended a previous 6-game losing sequence when they had been outscored 22-4, as I said. Gabriel Jesus scored against Liverpool at Anfield for the first time in his career. And as I said, Arsenal faced a lot of criticism the summer before when they signed Aaron Ramsdale for 24 million with 6 million add-ons. But he has been so good that after sacking Martinelli, he would be in the list of Arsenal players to be offered a new contract. And finally, James, credit to Cecil, who yesterday was roving around Anfield after the game. He got a word from Jurgen Klopp, didn't he?
He did.
In the car window.
And Jamie Carragher.
And then he met up with Jamie Carragher and had an interview with Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher gave an interview to AFTV on the same day 19 years ago when he was put on his arse at Highbury by Thierry Henry, when he scored that goal, when he ran through the whole Liverpool defence and we beat them 4-2 and went on to win that league. So Carragher on his arse that day.
Well, that might
on
be
the anniversary of his, so giving an interview for AFTV on the anniversary that Thierry Henry put him on his arse.
I don't think we'll ever see a Jamie Carragher interview on AFTV ever again, but very true. Go check that fan cam out if you haven't yet. Big thanks to everyone who's been watching this show. Yeah, difficult one. Let us know. How do you feel about it, having slept on it? I feel better. I felt okay after. Disappointment, sure, but plenty of positives. Arsenal march on. We got West Ham next. That's 7 wins and a draw in our last 8 games since defeat to Man City. It's been a very good response, but let's keep going. Let's hope for a little favour, but more importantly, let's do our job, because if we do, we'll win this league. See you in a bit.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.